Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Gaming Corner. And what I do want to talk about is Sonic Adventure 2. Now, I'm going to split this into a couple parts. I tried making a big one, but I haven't earned the right to have that long of videos. So I guess I'm going to start earning my right to having longer videos. But recently, Sonic 3 came into the picture, and I just watched that movie. And if you haven't already, highly recommend it. Sonic 3 is basically a love letter to Sonic Adventure 2. It's like 75% Sonic Adventure 2 with its own little twist and flavor to it that makes it its own original movie. And I think that's why I like the Sonic movie franchise is it's so close to the source material, but it's not a complete carbon copy to the point where you could see it as fan service as well as its own thing. But as I was playing Sonic Adventure 2, I was really trying to think about what made this game so great as a child. And you know what? There's some good and there's some bad in it. And I think for the first part, I'm going to talk primarily about the gameplay and the atmosphere and the tone that it sets. And then the second part, I'm going to talk about the story and what made it so special. But as far as gameplay goes, I'm going to get rid of the bad stuff first because there's not a whole lot of bad things, but I can't just completely glaze this game because it is its own flawed, degree, but it's still extremely playable. If not anything, it's extremely replayable. Probably didn't word that very correctly, but you know what? I don't really care. But, yeah, the flaws in this game are really few and far between, and I could only say, sometimes the boundaries in this game don't feel like they have a whole lot of protection. Now, obviously, you could just take ownership for your play style, but the one thing I've really realized is, especially during the jungle missions, and especially when Sonic and Shadow meet in the jungle for the first time and have their first battle, despite what side you are playing on, it's such a fast-paced fight that the barriers really aren't there, and you have to watch how often you attack, your opposite. If you're playing as Sonic, how you're attacking Shadow and vice versa. But you could be spinning ball attacking the opposite so many times that you accidentally run yourself off the edge. That's what I did a couple times, especially when it came to those forest missions, which are a lot of fun, the Sonic and Shadow ones. Sometimes you would be going upside down and there's no barrier when the camera pans out, that sometimes your stick will be pointing a certain direction and you'll veer off to the left or the right and completely throw yourself off, especially if you just collect 100 rings, which equals 1 life. Congratulations, you just went an entire mission without getting hit just so you could spend that life on falling off of an edge. Obviously, a forgivable gameplay mistake, not something to really get mad about, but just something I really noticed. And then the bigger factor that I had realized while playing this game is that these highway missions, let me tell you something, this game could have done without these highway missions. The Rouge the Bat and Tails one, where you're racing to a goal and you have to collect a certain amount of rings, get through the checkpoint. Because, first off, this is not any highway that I've ever driven on before. You could tell that this is a fictitious highway because no city planner would make a highway this crazy. I don't even think that it's civil engineerically possible. I don't even know if bridges fall under civil engineering. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. But, whoever builds bridges, architects, I don't think that this is possible. I only know this because my roommate in college was a engineering architect or something like that, or whatever major. I'm not good with those words, right? But he definitely did architecture work, and I saw his thing where he was doing homework, where he was building bridges and making sure that it held itself stable. And you know what? I realized why being a bridge builder or bridge designer or any sort of architect or engineer of that magnitude pays a lot of money, because you really do have to get it down to a science. So just a side note, I know I probably butchered your career title multiple times. I apologize for that. That's not my area of expertise, but I respect you guys for making our bridges safe to drive across, because I've been seeing just what could go wrong in that scenario. But just looking at these bridges, this is not realistic at all. I just also thought that they were boring. What I would be doing is I'd just be driving along and I'd have to launch my Spotify on an app and then listen to Megadeth while I finished this mission, because I just couldn't deal with the repetitiveness of it. It just didn't seem like there was any threat. The other thing that the other missions had, where you're actually playing as Knuckles or Rouge the Bat or Tails or Eggman, is that there's actually threats. But on this one, it just kind of seemed like race to the area. Just not my best mission. Obviously, the Sonic and Shadows were race oriented, but at least you had a spinning ball into some robots before you reached the checkpoint. It didn't seem too 0 and 1 binary. It kind of seemed like these Sonic and Shadow missions actually had some variety and some action to them. But let us make this very clear. Although there's some big splotches, I will say that the rest of the gameplay design is actually really good. A lot of it's very playable. Although the Emerald missions with Knuckles and Rouge are my least favorite, I still think they're very playable and they have their own little tone. The Tails and Eggman thing, obviously if you look at the villain and hero quest lines and how they intersect, you're going to have a hedgehog, you're going to have a robot to battle with, then you're going to have an Emerald Hunter. But it just kind of seemed like all of these guys, they were very similar missions. Tails and Eggman, they had a similar feel to them. Sonic and Shadow had a similar feel to it all. Rouge and Knuckles had a similar feel. But I will say, as you were playing on the different ends of the spectrum with the heroes and the villains, like each of their counterparts had a different tone with their music, and just the environment that the levels were laying out. It just kind of felt like two games in one sometimes. And it's a very unique feeling where it's the same game and it's the similar mechanics, but they're at least able to utilize the environments and the feel of the game and just the different tones that each of these story arcs set, to make it seem at least somewhat different. It's so similar yet so different at the same time when I play it. And then obviously when you converge into one final story arc at the end where you play as every single character all at once, it came together super nicely. And obviously I'm going to get back into that more when I go over the storyline. But, it goes with the gameplay too. Obviously, it felt like Tails and Eggman had their own different upgrades. Knuckles and Rouge had their own strengths and weaknesses, and at least felt like somewhat different just by having similar gameplay styles. Sonic and Shadow themselves, right? Yeah, no, a lot of these upgrades were very similar, but when Sonic hits that bouncing ball thing, that really helps you at the end of the game. Shadow doesn't really have that, or at least I didn't use it when I was playing as Shadow. If I did, I forgot, but it kind of just showed that they can make them play so similar yet so different all at the same time. But you know what? I think that does kind of wrap it up for the gameplay that I saw. I mean, you could go all into depth with the gameplay mechanics and everything, even more, I feel like. Someone's probably done it better than I have. But I did just want to talk about the way the game plays before I go into the actual story itself and why it hit such a high note with me. But yeah, no, that's part one of this. I will see you on the video for part two. But you know what? Thank you guys very much for watching this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys watch the next one when I talk about it, because honestly, the most I could say about this game is I really do hope you play it yourself, if you haven't already, because who on earth hasn't played this game, and who on earth who has played this game hasn't remembered it. But yeah, no, the gameplay is super straightforward. There's flaws in there, but overall it's just an awesome experience, an awesome feel when my hands touch this controller. But I'm going to get into how the story touched me right in the feels and how it got me emotionally thinking about my development as a human being. But I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.